Hello, everyone. Welcome to Access Chat. Today, we're being joined by a guest that we've had before, Rene Perkins, and she's with CityMaaS. And also, Antonio Santos is joining me, and Neil Milliken is on holiday with his beautiful wife, Martina. So he's not going to join us today. But Rene, welcome back to Access Chat. We're excited to learn, how much you've accomplished since last time you were on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on again. And I really enjoyed the last time when I spoke to you guys, where CityMaaS was a big vision. And I think this time when I come back, I'd like to show you the progress that CityMaaS has made since then, and also some of the products and services that we think that will help the people with disability and their friends and family to live more improved, accessible life.
Oh, well said. Do you mind just telling the guest, in case they didn't see the other episode, tell them who you are and tell them about the program. Let's just reintroduce everybody to you.
Sure. So my name is Rene, and I'm CEO and co-founder at CityMaaS. So CityMaaS actually was born in 2018, 2018 summertime, where we have this vision of various different dots joining together. I must say that that year was a very sad year in my life, and if you like, I have a sudden epiphany, if you like, where I lost my second child and my grandma passed away at the same time. And I realized living the corporate life wasn't really the life that I wanted to fulfill. And I really want to do something that actually means something. And that's where CityMaaS was born then, when we witnessed my mother-in-law's foster children's difficulties of get around the cities, get around places, because he's on wheelchairs and there's many kind of lack of relevant information for him and for the carer, my mother-in-law, to be able to plan journeys and go from A to B, for example. So we're looking to that difficulties around getting around cities and getting the right information to be able to do that. And there's some information there, but not in a very good and scalable way that that can extend it to anywhere in a global platform. And that's where we set out the visions of actually to help improve accessible travel back then, right? Back then it's about making people easier for people with disabilities and their carers to go from A to B. That was a simple vision. But when we look into this simple vision, but it's not so simple. There's so many parts that we learn since 2018. It was incredible journey where we learned actually to be able to plan that journey from A to B. You got to have the right information to be able to plan it, and at the right time to plan it. Right. And with that information at the right time, but in a way that the right form that can be communicated to the users that needs it the most. So we realized those are three major obstacles for us to be able to achieve that vision. So we start, starting a lot of research with charities like Leonard Cheshire, and we are collaborating with academic universities, research institutes like Brunel Universities, University of Surrey, and University of Bath is also part of our ecosystem now to provide kind of technical support as well as research assistance. So based on our research and our finding from those studies, that we start to kind of pan out, really, if we want to achieve that simple vision at the beginning, we realize we have to solve these problems to actually really see in the real world impact, not just travel from A to B, but also providing right information at the right time, in the right form that can be disseminated to the users that needs it the most. So that's where CityMaaS, since 2018, we joined a number of integrators, including Microsoft AI for Good. We've been selected for London Mayor Office's Business Growth Program delivered by London Partners. We were selected for an investment program by Sente Foundry, which is Chicago-based, US Chicago-based investment program, when I was in the US December time last year. And we've been working with University of Surrey as well in terms of working with actually providing placement opportunities for university students, as well as kind of collaborating with professors to use cutting edge to achieve that visions that where we originally set up to achieve in 2018. And since then, we have been through quite a lot of iterations, I must say, for our platform, which we have now gone live in August. And there's many things has happened as well during this time between 2018 to now, is that to achieve those visions, we need to segregate them and then bring them together in the end. Hence, we have since then provide our live platform to provide that real-time accessibility information, localized accessibility information at global platform, i.e. in all the major cities where we have accessibility information on the places of interest based on the individual's needs. I have to admit the data is not perfect yet, but actually we got quite a lot of data on wheelchair accessibility perspective. What we would like to do is to be able to provide visually impaired, hearing impaired, and cognitive impairments. And I realize that, we all realize it's a complex matter and there's many different degrees of people with disabilities and different type of needs as well, and they might be conflicting. But we are doing our very best to provide that extended impacts of wheelchair accessibility, visually impaired, hearing impaired, and cognitive impairments. So
I know Antonio wants to ask you a question, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead and finish your thought, and then let's let Antonio ask you a question too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, just to wrap up. So we provide that, accessibility information. We provide navigation. It's not perfect, but actually it has some degrees of help, if you like, less interchange and less walking and things like that for people with disabilities and in carers. We have web accessibility plugins that to help people with different impairments interact with our platform, which was the part that I talked about in terms of enabling people's experience, digital interactions with the products and services that we have. We were also providing white label mobility platform for public bus company in Portugal to enable them to discover the real-time bus locations and help tackling transport poverty in the kind of suburban rural areas. And in that platform, we integrated our Cody technology, which is a UX UI manipulations of predicting human intent, and that was also a part of information dissemination technologies that we're developing and continue developing. And we have a PhD funding to do 4-year research on that to push out as a product on its own. Sorry, that was a long introduction and reminder. I'm just thinking back in terms of 2018, what's happened. Like it's been like more than 2 years in the memory in my head for sure.
So Rene, you have done a lot of research, definitely. Something that we observe is that there's been a lot of investment and planning on smart cities all over the world. Plenty of discussions how to improve life in cities, how to improve sustainability, but sometimes we don't see that conversation driving into direction of making cities more accessible. And considering that we know that in many countries, aging population is a well-known issue for decades. It's not something, population is aging. We know that's probably since the 60s, 70s, but probably public policy was not paying attention enough. So what we need to consider, based on your research and your experience, what we need to consider today when we are looking at these big smart city projects, how can we find ways where we don't end up in a trap of creating things that are not accessible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Your observations of smart city project is like the same as mine. Whenever I heard smart cities, the next word would be sustainability. Although sustainability can mean people equality as well. In the UN SDG goals, there's 17 of them. Actually, I think 7 out of 17 of them actually mention people with disabilities, whether it's in the
11,
context.
11.
Is it
11.
11? Is that 11? Yeah. So that, there you go. So it's it's mentioned in context transportation, it's mentioned in the index of equality, the rights and housing. It's mentioned in all aspects of basic human rights, right? But yet again, the kind of smart city projects, as I mentioned, the efficiency, energy efficiency, autonomous vehicles, flying drones, delivering goods. Those are great stuff to solve the modern lives living. That's fantastic. It's needed. And I think accessibility is still kind of afterthoughts, even though there are campaigns, there are clear business benefits of putting accessibility in the planning stage. We're building it in so that it doesn't cost you more, the government or the institutes more later on to kind of retrofit it. Sometimes it's not even possible, right? Whether it's a business cost and benefits or whether it's physically not possible. So it is frustrating that even though the aging population, as you mentioned, is known issue, everybody knows that in some part of your life, in my life, I'd be disabled. I just don't know when yet. I could be in an accident. Then I obviously lost my freedom to move freely, and all of these things are pointing to the right directions of awareness of the importance of accessibility. But I think for me, the obstacles of actually making a more systematic way is it's already addressed by many campaigns, like the Valuable 500. People like Caroline's bringing all the decision makers of those smart city projects, for example, into the pictures of people with disabilities. Now, there is 2 obstacles in my mind. One is actually aware of it. They might be aware of this need to do it, and the willingness to do it. But then there's also obstacles of cost and benefits, business case. It's a must compared to it's nice have kind of decisions that they having the conversation during the meetings, right? To make those decisions. So it's really for me. I think the more campaigns like the Valuable 500 into a level of decision making, the more awareness that those accessibility is not afterthoughts out there, the higher chance of smart cities can be included as part, accessibility can be included as part of a smart city for sure. I wish it could be simpler.
I agree. And when we talk about smart cities, we need to really think about what smart cities mean. A word that we also have used here on Access Chat is smart communities. But how can you have a smart city if large parts of the population, can't navigate the city properly? And so how can you have a smart city if we don't have the ability to make sure that the crosswalks have enough time for each of us to get across, or that accessible transportation and all the different things. And I know that you're trying to make sure that people with disabilities know when a restaurant is accessible, when a business is accessible, when transportation is accessible, and if you need accommodations, how do you get to that? How have the businesses responded to what you're doing? Have they been supportive? Have they been wanting to provide you the information or understand why they need the information so that people can, give them their business? And I would also be curious about how is COVID-19 impacting all the stuff you're doing? It seems like your work is more important during COVID-19, but I'll let you tell us if that's true.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. So I think all the businesses we spoke to in terms of bringing their accessibility information of their property, of their location, of their business into our platform are very supportive. So they understand automatically. There will be a sense of agreement. You're right. It needs to be accessible. This kind of information needs to be out there. And actually, joining us and putting the effort in terms of, measuring the rams or the handles, the height, and also the kind of bathrooms, dimensions of the bathroom, accessible bathrooms they have, etc. It is it does take a little bit of commitment for them to be able to provide the information. And sometimes some organizations are able to carry it through, some organizations are a bit slow, or just kind of leave it as it is. So from that perspective, there are responsible organizations that have the tenacity to carry through what they believe in, what they're saying, for sure. But there's a long way to go, I think. And I think every organization should really be behind what we're doing, providing voluntary, that kind of information for people on our platform able to visit their businesses. And the reasons why they visit the business is because they have money to spend, right? They can go interact with your business, right? They go shop in your shops, and then go and dive in your restaurants and have coffee in your cafes. I mean, why wouldn't you want to? It's just, for me, just mind-boggling. It's about kind of human.
Well, sometimes they don't know, and then what you're doing is actually bringing them access to a whole new, client base, people
Yeah.
to use your business. You had mentioned the Valuable 500, and we're big supporters of Caroline. Her birthday, she just had a birthday this week. But and one thing that we've talked about is, it's interesting how competition is such a motivator for businesses. So we noticed that when Ernst & Young and Accenture joined the Valuable 500, their competitors became more interested in this. And so I was just wondering if you're using that as you're talking to these businesses and letting them know, well, you're a pizza parlor, but just to let you know, these other pizza parlors down the street, they've done this. I was just wondering if you've used that. And I know that Antonio has a question after that, but let me turn it over to you.
That's a good tactic, but I have honestly not used that tactic before, but I may take on that for sure. Thank you for the tip. Another way of going about doing that in a more scalable, in a short time frame for us, is using possible technologies to solve that problem. So what in our platform as well, not only we rely on businesses provide that kind of accessibility information of their businesses onto our platform, but we also use machine learning to assess the places of interest on the map in terms of their probability of accessible or not. And actually, our model has 70% accuracy at the moment. So it's 70% of what we're saying that is accessible. It's right. And compared to kind of crowdsource, we also use crowdsource confirmation as well from our community. If the community has visited that places of interest saying, it is accessible, it is not, that will continue to helping our algorithm to predict the rate of accessibility. And it's improving to 73%, and we're looking to improve to 80%. Ultimately, we want to be 100% for sure, that without relying a huge amount of effort. Can you imagine that a startup like CityMaaS trying to tackle this global problem and trying to get every single business to give me information? But that's almost like, if I spend 1,000 years, I might not even achieve that vision, right? So what CityMaaS' vision is grand, but yet we want to try to use technology as much as possible to create that scalable impact. I hope that answers your questions, actually.
No, that was an excellent. I thought that was a wonderful point, because artificial intelligence, machine learning, it has to learn. So I love that you're using crowdsourcing to increase the efficiency. Antonio, I know you had a question. Sorry.
No, my question goes into data and quality of data. We know that in the past, many people tried to find ways, let's say, to crowdsource data in relation to topics related with mobility, but those projects, they were live for a couple of years, and then people lost the energy, or companies lost funding. So, and not all governments provide data available from public transport. So I know data is a problem. So what are the issues that you have with that, and how are you fighting against that? How can you get data that make your app more reliable? How do you engage with organizations that might have the data somewhere hidden somewhere without being used? How do you solve that problem?
No, that's a great question, Antonio. There's such a great questions, and you're right. Data is the king now, right? Data is the currency right now in this modern life, where the more data, the more insights we have, the more helpful to businesses and individuals, in fact, right? And in terms of you mentioned about charities and projects to crowdsource data, right? The quality of data, and they run out of steam in a couple of years just because there's no funding, or there's too much, require huge amount of efforts and resources to be able to ensure the quality of data is usable to create that impact they set out to create, right? And that's why CityMaaS really truly believe we need to have a scalable model. We need to have a sustainable and scalable model to create the impact that the grand vision that we set out to create in 2018. That not only rely on crowdsourcing data or crowd confirming data, but also using data, whatever data we're currently using at the moment to make that prediction. So there was obviously limitations from the quality of data in terms of the input and output, and the quality of the models to be able to provide that accuracies and the right level of predictions for to create that impact. So we continuously improving that, as I mentioned before, from kind of 70% to 73%. The aim is to be as close to 100% as possible, but nobody can predict certainty, even including crowdsourced data, right? So the quality of crowdsourced data it's not also 100% reliable, because one could report something with lower credibility of profile, if you know what I mean. There are multiple kind of elements of the accuracies of crowdsourced data can be used. So if you kind of sizing up the elements of crowdsourced data, and the positive side as well as the negative side of things, the accuracy, the timeliness, the kind of consistency of the data that from the crowds, etc., compared to kind of machine learning prediction data that we have in terms of the quantity data that we have. Our model is based on all the data has been confirmed previously. And obviously there is elements of the data that I think a lot of businesses and technology companies may not pay a huge amount of attention to, is the dynamisms of the data, is like the timeliness of the data. So today, if the lift is out of service, is tomorrow the lift's out of service on that station? If today the lift is working fine in the station, is tomorrow out of service? Is that level of accuracy and quality of data as we're after? So from kind of travel data perspective in London, we currently rely on Transport for London to provide us this data so that we can disseminate this data in a real-time manner. As soon as they say, the lift in Charing Cross is out of service, then that will be in our platform. And if as soon as they say the lift in Charing Cross is back in service, that will be on the platform. So CityMaaS's platform is a platform enabling that kind of real-time information where we can get our hands on. We love to get the whole world's information like that, just to put on our platform. And by the way, our platform is completely free, right? It's completely free for any users to use. Any people with disabilities or the carers and families want to use it to plan their journey or to find out the information, right? So it's something that we find is very important for Uppermost, the starting of the CityMaaS vision in 2018, is provide that level of quality data, timeliness of the data, and in a way that they can consume easily using our Assist plugin on our platform.
So Rene, I understand, and I applaud that it's for free, but how are y'all making money? Because you have to make money to stay in business. So if the app and the information for the end user is free, is it a sustainable business for you guys?
That is a really, really key thing to tackle and address. And we are a purpose-driven company. We're a profit-making company, but purpose-driven. What that means that our vision is to be able to have this company going on for like, forever if we can, to continue doing what we're doing. So we need to make it a sustainable business. And our business model is around providing those data for people, for businesses or websites to integrate into their websites, for example, like Access Chat. If you have about us, if you have a location, right, or any businesses that have locations or websites have about us page where they can show where the business is going, or where they are even customers, if they are customer facing organizations like supermarkets or hotels or restaurants and bars, right? We can provide that data streaming into the about page and replace the map on their about page with our platform, so that their visitors, once they go on their platform, their visitors go on the business website, they can find out the nearby accessibility conditions, right? So, for example, there's a Premier Inn customers want to stay in a Premier Inn in London somewhere, in Bromley, for example. They'd be able to go like Premier Inn websites. They said they check out I want to stay in this Premier Inn in Bromley. They will be able to see on the Premier Inn website our platform on their map integrations in their websites, saying, oh, this is what I'm saying, the nearby restaurants here, it's wheelchair accessible. So I can dine out into that wheelchair accessible restaurants or cafes or shops that I want to go to, or places of interest or leisure parks that I want to go and visit. Right. So it's
but how does that bring money in for you guys?
So
how does it bring money in for CityMaaS?
So the business will be paying a monthly subscription to CityMaaS to provide that information and data. Depends on how many users they have in terms of streaming the data, what we're providing as well. So that will so we will call them not customers, we call them partners in terms of helping them to achieve that inclusion, if you like, for the business. If they were saying that our hotel is actually accessible, we consider all aspects of it. It's got the lift, it's got accessible rooms, because wheelchair users or disabled people visit a hotel not just to stay in a hotel. They stay in a hotel for a night and they're doing things, they're living their lives, right? So it's about that inclusions.
No, and Rene, let me include that just to add something interesting. Right on that point that you're saying, booking the hotel. I was talking with a couple a few months ago here in Ireland, who were one of the members of the family has disability, and they would say, oh, when I book my holidays, I always go to the same place because I know it's accessible. So I know that I'm going to spend my money, I'm going to have a good experience. I'm not going to take any risk, because otherwise I might go into a place that says it's accessible, and then I reach there and it's not really, it doesn't fulfill my expectations. Yeah. So you are trying to address precisely that.
Exactly. So, to really get that information as well, to address that problem, not only to provide us information, but provide us information that the users can consume easily, right, on their websites. So we are actually launching accessible taxis on our platform as well. So when people actually on our platform and they discover the accessible places that they can go and that's suitable for their needs, they're able to book accessible taxi on our platform to get them there if they need to. Well, we obviously have navigations for public transportation. It's currently on London at the moment, but there are options if they would like to do that, they can do that. So in a way that what what CityMaaS's core value proposition is to improve accessible living by providing personalized, products and services that not only information that we're providing, i.e. where it's accessible, where it's good to go, but also how can we get you there? How can we, the applications of data streaming, the applications of what CityMaaS's technology is, it's immense. I still really feel quite strongly about it because you can improve the mobility side of things. You can also improve accessible housing, for example, right? Our platform, our data streaming services can be implemented into Zoopla, to Rightmove, or to any kind of property aggregators to display that property they are trying to sell or trying to rent, their surrounding accessibility conditions. Because anybody want to move houses or that, it's a change of lifestyle. It's a huge decision. And you got to know not only, what does the flat look like, does the house look like, how big is it, how bedroom, bathroom it is, but also what about the surrounding area? For parents, we talk about schools, right? For parents, we talk about what's a good school, but for people with disabilities as well, you talk about where's, can I actually go to a nearby restaurants without too much hassle? Can I get to my nearby GPs, healthcare providers that's accessible to me? Can I go to the grocery store next street that it's accessible to me? And this kind of level of accessibility information will help people for accessible housing as well, for real estate market, for example.
Which is an excellent point, because whenever you are looking for an accessible house, I know I had a friend of mine that was looking for an accessible apartment townhouse house in Washington DC, and she went to 68 different ones, and a lot of them said they were ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliant. And she would get there and she would say, okay, you said that you were ADA compliant in a bathroom. And they said, yes, there's a bathroom on the second floor that's fully accessible. And she's like, right, but I'm in a wheelchair. So how do I get to the second floor? And the real estate agent said, wow, I never really thought about that. Yeah, I know. So it's like sometimes, and she still has not been able to find an accessible place in Washington, D.C., which is the capital of the United States. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. So I love that aspect of what you're doing. I think that more and more what CityMaaS is doing, we're all going to learn from. And we talk about smart cities, smart homes, smart communities, but to really make them accessible to all, you got to dig into it like they're doing at CityMaaS. So I know we're out of time, and I want to make sure that I give you the final word. But before we do that, Rene, we want to thank our supporters. We are just so thankful to Barclays Access, to MicroLink, and MyClearText. They are such wonderful partners and so supportive of all of the community of people with disabilities and Access Chat. We're very, very grateful to them. But I want to make sure before we close that I give you the last word, but at the same time, will you let the audience know what your website is? They're going to find out what your Twitter account is when we do the tweet chat next Tuesday. But let's make sure people know how to, find out more about CityMaaS.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this discussion because it's very in-depth and very close to what we're doing and close to my heart. And if you want to find out a bit more about what CityMaaS does as an overall umbrellas of what the CityMaaS products and services can help you and your families, you can go and check it out in citymaas.io. So city, CityMaaS.io. That's our main website. But if you'd like to find out the accessibility information in your local area and where you're going to, please go to demo.citymaas.io. So this demo.citymaas.io, and you will find a level of services out there across the globe. And feel free to check out our assist plugins as well if you require some sort of adjustment to interact with our platform. it's all across my life.
Congratulations. Yeah,
Thank you
congratulations.
so much.
It's very powerful work. So we really, really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you
And
so much
we're
for
here to
having me.
support you. Yeah, we're here to support you. So
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much. And thanks to our audience. We appreciate everybody at Access Chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.